Hey, welcome to Garden Rose. My garden beds are amended, topped off, and ready for planting in the 2024 garden season. So if you want to see what I did today, stick around. All right, so I figured I would share a little bit about my garden plans. I've roughly sketched out a few times. This was last year's, and now I'm trying to figure out where I want everything this year. And I'm sure it'll change. I'm sure this isn't permanent. I am trying to move things around from last year, mainly because I think that, especially with tomatoes, you don't want to plant them in the same place that you did the year before. So there's certain things like that that I'm just trying to do a little bit of a rotation just between the beds to hopefully not deplete any one bed of everything that plant needed and used last year. I am going to amend, so I'll show you a little bit about what I have, and we'll amend the beds in a minute here. But all that aside, I just wanted to share what my plans are so far, and maybe you can help visualize what this is going to look like for me. But basically, last year, you can see we have those tall poles in that back bed over there, and that's where we had the tomatoes last year. So we're going to use those instead for peas and cucumbers. I'm hoping that we used some zip ties around the poles to help the tomatoes like hold on to it, and we tied them up with old t-shirt strips, and they didn't really need the zip ties to cling to the pole too much, but we had that as an option. So I'm thinking with the cucumbers, they might need a little bit of extra support, but we'll see. I'm hoping that they kind of can go up a straight pole like that. My other thought is possibly tying twine between two of the poles, like wrapped around. So I think it's like a Florida weave, or there's other kind of trellising options where if you put twine around like two pieces of wood, that the peas can kind of go up those and be supported by the twine. So I'm kind of trying in my head to think of a way that I can do some twine in between those poles to help some extra support if the peas and cucumbers need it. So that's my thought. And I also want to sprinkle some like chives, cilantro, and bush beans around those poles too, in between, like for the peas and cucumbers. I did look at some charts, and I have a few books that I've been referencing, just not necessarily heavy into companion planting, but trying to see what things do better next to each other and what things don't really compete for the same nutrients. So I'm trying to keep that in mind too. That's why I feel a little bit more confident about my placing this year than last year, just because I paid a little bit more attention to that. So bush beans, I think, are going to do well. Ooh, it's a little bit windy. So I think bush beans are going to do well with the cucumbers and peas, so we'll see. And then on the other end of that same bed, I'm going to put zucchini and squash. I have some patty pan squash, so like summer squash will go on that side of the bed. And that's not the same place as I had it last year. I had a lot of squash bugs last year, and I feel like they're probably just waiting, hanging out in the soil for the next, squash or pumpkin to go in there. So I am moving the place where they were. However, it's only so far away. Like, I don't have that much space here, so it's not like I can go, a very far distance away. It's just going to be another bed, but something's better than nothing. So I'm not putting them directly in the same spot. I'm going to be moving them over a bed. You may be asking then, well, where am I going to put my tomatoes? So I'm actually going to use that whole back trellis for my tomatoes this year, and really excited to just fill that whole thing up. That was kind of my vision for last year. That back bed was going to always be tomatoes. However, just time-wise, we didn't have that back bed established because it's in the ground compared to these raised beds. We didn't have that tilled up. We didn't have the trellis in. We just weren't ready, and my tomatoes were ready to go out. So this year we have that already done, so I'm going to try it out, and hopefully I can just have that whole back wall filled with tomatoes, and it's going to be beautiful and luscious, and I'm really excited to see that. So tomatoes will go back there, and I'll also put basil plants kind of in between around the tomatoes. Just, I don't know, you know, tomatoes and basil go hand in hand. So I'll do that. And then on the one end of the trellis, I'm also thinking of doing a melon. I have I can't remember the variety now, but I have a watermelon and a cantaloupe that I really want to try. I tried last year, but I think I just planted them too late, so they didn't have enough time to really grow and get established. So I want to try to do better on my timing with that this year and see if I can't grow a watermelon. So I'm just going to save some of that, just a little bit of space towards the end of the trellis to see if I can put some melons there. Alrighty, so for all the tomatoes against the back trellis will obviously be my indeterminate. So for my determinate, I have a bunch of Romas that I'm really excited to grow. So those are going to go in one of the beds closest to the tomatoes still. So it's going to be a whole tomato zone, but I'll be putting the determinate tomatoes in that bed along with some bush beans and spinach. Then in this front bed, I already have my garlic planted, so that'll be there. Once that's time to come out, I'll probably just put something, I don't know. I'm not very good yet at the whole, like figuring out the different seasons of things, like cool crops versus heat-loving crops. So I don't know what would be a good thing to plant there in the middle of the summer that would be okay growing through the heat. So if you have any suggestions of what I can put in my garlic space once the garlic is done, like July-ish, leave it in the comments because I'd love to know what I can put there. But next, for the rest of that bed, I'm going to do cabbage, lettuce, radishes, carrots, beets, and some chives throughout. So with the cabbage, I learned my lesson last year, and I had Brussels sprouts that got demolished by cabbage moths and just worms, caterpillars, all of it. So I did see, you know, I would see all throughout the summer those little cabbage moths flying around and laying their eggs on the Brussels sprouts. And this year I'm going to get ahead of that by using a like garden netting, just the netting that you can put over your crops to make sure that the bugs can't really like land on it and lay their eggs. So I'm going to be using that over the cabbage. I think Brad is going to help me build something that can go over the whole bed, but I also wanted to possibly put a cattle panel like trellis in between this front bed and that one. It's weird putting your hand, trying to point to things. Between these two front beds, I wanted to put a cattle panel trellis. But now I'm wondering, like, I probably can't put the full bed covered in the netting if I want the trellis to come up. So I still have to figure that part out because I was thinking of putting pole beans on the end over the trellis. So we'll see how that goes. If I do still want to do the cattle panel trellis, I might just have the netting over, like just build something smaller to put it directly over the cabbage instead of trying to put it over the whole bed. But we'll see. We still have to figure that part out. But yeah, that's going to be a fun bed, just of a lot of different things sprinkled in. And last year I was pretty organized. Like I had everything kind of in rows. Like I had a row of spinach, a block of carrots, a row of radishes. This year I kind of just want to be a little bit more chaotic and sprinkle things in. I'll probably still have like a rhyme and reason to it because that's just how I am, but I do want to see, you know, like carrots popping up in between radishes, and I just think it'll be really pretty to see them all sprinkled in throughout each other. So that's my goal, but stay tuned. Who knows what'll happen. I'll probably just end up putting it in rows because that's what I'm like following. Like I'm just following a square foot grid of how many things can go in a square foot. So I will see what feels right when I'm planting. But that's that. So then this last bed up here, this is going to be my pepper bed. So if you've seen my starts, I have so many peppers and I'm very excited about it. And I sowed so many seeds thinking that I was going to have the same experience as last year and nothing was going to come up for me. So pleasantly surprised that things are actually coming up. But now I'm like, ooh, I have a lot of plants to figure out where I'm going to put. So this whole bed is going to be dedicated to peppers and onions. So same kind of thing. I'm going to lay out the peppers and sprinkle the onions like all around the border of the bed, and maybe in between if I can. I'll have to figure out what kind of like works space wise, but that's going to be peppers and onions. And the rest of the peppers I will either try to give out to like my family and see if they want to plant them. I know my sister has a really nice garden, so she might want some peppers that she can put in her garden. Otherwise, I might just get some pots and kind of have pots of peppers sprinkled around and just like in the back patio area. So I'm not going to let them go to waste, but we will figure out where they're going to go. And then I also thought about putting carrots throughout there too. I think I'm getting a delivery, hold on. I also thought about sprinkling carrots throughout that bed too, so it'll be like peppers, carrots, and onions. But I want to prioritize the peppers and onions and have the carrots in that other spot. So if I don't have free spaces where carrots would even grow well, I probably won't do that, but just a thought. So that's my beds. That's my plan. We will see what it actually looks like, but that's what I'm visualizing for now, and I feel good about it. So I'm really excited that it'll kind of look nice and everything will be playing nicely together. So clearly I did not mention potatoes. I've decided this year I'm not going to grow potatoes, which I'm a little bit sad about because they were so much fun last year, and it was like fun harvesting them and going through the dirt and finding all the potatoes. But they took up an entire bed, and I even tried to grow like cilantro and chives, different things around them, and they just got choked out by all of the potato leaves because it really blew up, which was awesome. But for the amount of potatoes I got, I'm not sure that it was worth giving up a whole bed. Seeing my plants here and seeing how many different things I can get out of one bed, I don't feel excited about spending a whole bed just on potatoes when, you know, I'm perfectly comfortable going to the store and just getting a sack of potatoes. And if I still want to preserve some, I can just go get bulk potatoes and kind of do some projects with them. But I kind of have been trying to prioritize the vegetables that, you know, like part of the Dirty Dozen or that are better to buy organic, that I'd rather grow myself and know that I'm growing organically and there's no like harmful things with them. I'd rather spend the space on those things versus potatoes where I'm comfortable getting those from the store. So I don't know if that makes sense, but we'll see if I end up hating that decision. Maybe I'll be really, you know, sad that I don't have potatoes to harvest, but that's my plan for now. For corn, I am planning on putting it outside of the bed. It's going to be along this side here. So we're gonna have to till up the ground a little bit just to get it loose and ready for planting. But we're gonna do like maybe like a 4x12 block of corn there. I don't know if I have enough corn seeds, so maybe not. Maybe it'll just be 4x4. Whatever I have enough to do, we will do on the side there. Just to free up some space in the beds and just to give it a try. You know, corn went okay last year. It grew really well. It didn't taste the best, so I don't know if there's other things I need to be kind of like thinking about when it comes to growing like really sweet, delicious corn. I don't know if it's like when you harvest it or all the different things that can go into that, but we're gonna try it in the ground this year. And then pumpkins. I bet you're wondering where I'm putting pumpkins. So this is the side of our house where there's usually a lot of hostas here, and I tried growing sunflowers here, but really the space just gets really weedy, and actually you can see the hostas are already coming up. So whatever hostas do come up, I'm going to try to take out and put around the front there. And then we're going to kind of extend this a little bit and make it all one half circle instead of the kind of like two circles here. We're gonna make this the pumpkin patch. So the house will block the early sunlight, and it'll start to be sunny, you know, around like noon, just when the sun's directly over the house. But I think that's going to be okay. And then this area gets a ton of sun all afternoon, like until the sun sets. So I think it'll work out well, but just something that we're trying this year because the pumpkins really took over. If you saw any of my videos last year, they took over this whole space. And then it was really hard to weed whack around and mow the grass around. So we're going to try to have it enclosed over in this space and see how that does for us. And then the last thing are these barrels. I actually just picked them up today, so I'm super excited about them. And I'm going to put strawberries in here. So these will be kind of sprinkled out throughout the garden too and be good for strawberries. All right, another thing that I am doing differently this year and wanted to make sure that I focused on was a soil test. So I sent out a soil test with my local extension office and I got the results back and they were a little bit confusing, but the main thing I'm taking away is that I need nitrogen, and I figured that I would, but it seems like all the other levels are decent. It's just that the nitrogen is something that I needed to amend. So I went and got some blood meal. I got 2 bags of it. My husband helped me do the math and I need about 1 pound per bed. So these are 3-pound bags. So I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna try to like evenly distribute these. I didn't account for that back trellis area too, so I know I need to use all of this. I'm just gonna try to spread it out evenly. And I also have trifecta that I'm gonna use too because it does have the phosphorus and potassium. So just in case I do need extra of that, I will be putting that in. The soil test was okay, but honestly, so I found out that my pH level is good, which helps. I found out I need nitrogen, which helps. The other results were kind of hard to understand, and I got soil from all the beds and put them, like mixed them all together and used a sample from that. So I don't know if like the tomato bed is especially low in something and other beds are not. So it's kind of hard for me to amend them all the same when I know that different things were planted in different areas. So I don't know that I would really do different soil tests per bed next year, but just something to think about, which I think will help with the rotation too, with the crop rotation that I'm doing. So I'm gonna throw these in my beds. All right, so all of my beds are amended with fertilizer and the heavy nitrogen. So that's done. I feel good. My husband came home with a truckload of soil, the same soil that we got to fill these beds. We just got another truckload to top them off because, as you can see, they've gotten pretty low and there's some spaces that are way lower than others. So we're gonna top off the beds and that's our next step. So that'll take up a lot of time today, but I'm excited to do it because I want to get these beds planted in a couple weeks. So that's what I need to do. I'm afraid that like something's letting me. What if something runs out? How many bags of this do you have now?
I don't know.
Hopefully this doesn't make something want to come make a bed here.
Like what, snakes?
Yeah. Or mice. Do you think it will?
Yeah, maybe.
Don't they look good? I had to take a break from all the work outside, so I figured, why not come show you what my seedlings are looking like? So basically everything's looking really great and I'm very proud of it. All of my peppers, tomatoes, and then beets and cabbage and onions. That's pretty much what I've got going on. I do have some petunias that I showed, the little flowers, the small seedlings. Those are petunias, so I'm excited for those to come up. And oh, I also got my peach tree. So I put that in a pot for now. It is way smaller than I thought it was going to be, but I don't really know much about fruit trees or anything, so I wasn't sure what to expect, but that's what I got. So I put it in a pot and we will be transplanting it outside when it stays warm weather, but for now it's just living right here. So I think that's going to be all that I start inside. I started a lot more last year. Like I know I did lettuce and I didn't do beets inside actually last year. This is my first year trying that out. Um, I don't know. I tried a lot of things. Cucumbers, the loofah I started inside. I did a lot and it was just a little bit overwhelming. I didn't really have a ton of success, I think because I just took on so much. So this feels better. And obviously you can see when I actually had all those peppers to up pot, it took over a lot of space. And so once I have to up pot those tomatoes, I'm not going to have any space to do anything else. So that'll be a later Mary problem to figure out. But for now, everything's looking really good and I'm super excited about it. I think I'm going to have to feed these soon. They're in a potting soil, so they do have some fertilizer in the mix already, and they're working on, I don't know, they're like fourth set of true leaves. So I think it's going to be time soon. They still look good. They've slowed down a little bit, I think. They're obviously still growing, but I think they haven't really been as fast as they were in the beginning. So I don't know if that means that it's time to fertilize them soon. I do want to use my fish fertilizer that I made. So I'm thinking I want to try to find a way to like divide up the different varieties. I have 6 of almost everything. So I'm thinking it'd be cool to do like 3 and 3 of the regular burpee all-purpose fertilizer that I have versus the fish fertilizer and see if there's a big difference between the two. So stick around, that might be the next video. If I fertilize them in the next week or so, I will film it and kind of like differentiate between the two different types. So I think that would be cool to see. But yeah, the rest of the day, we're going to continue to get the beds ready for planting. Not that we'll be planting anytime soon. We might try to plant some peas and maybe lettuce and then put the cabbage out there sooner than last year, but we still have a ways to go. It's almost April, so we still have about a month and some change before our last frost. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm very excited and it's so fun working on stuff, and especially when it's so nice out. I want to spend every second of it outside, kind of getting ready for nice weather to stick around. So that's what we'll be doing. Thank you so much for sticking around and hanging out with me while I get my beds prepped for the 2024 garden year. There's lots of exciting things coming this year. Hopefully we'll see how that peach tree does. We'll see how these peppers and tomatoes continue to do. So stay tuned. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. If you want some videos to check out, I know I love watching YouTube videos kind of in the background while I'm doing dishes or cooking or working on some mundane tasks. So check out my videos from last garden year. It was my first year gardening, so still quite the newbie, but I'm learning a lot. So if you want to see even just the things that have changed so far, go check out those old videos. They're kind of fun to look back on. So thanks for being here, and we will see you on the next one.